All right, time for those who should probably be committed, because they're too committed to the game as we return for another 1v1. And I mean it when I say committed, folks. Because you've got to be crazy to consume this much Age of Empires 4. Because Almeria currently sitting up at 433 games played. Yeah, you heard me right. And that's just the player playing in the blue as Delhi. Because if we look across at his opponent, oh, he be in the 400s too. That's right. It's Give You Anxiety, no stranger to what we do here, playing as France. And do you know how many games he's on now? 458. But Give You Anxiety, he's slipping. Recently dropping by 43 ranks. Now seeing 131 on the leaderboards. Compared to Almeria, who has been slowly climbing up, in fact. In fact, they more or less switched positions recently, as Almeria went up 47 to be 87th on the ELO leaderboards, seeing that 55% win rate. So this one, I think this should be fairly interesting and fairly even. I'm excited to see how this one plays out, because it's France versus Delhi. Now, Delhi, we've seen them getting a lot more playtime recently, but France is, of course, always that king of rushing. And we'll have to see if they can rush in this type of game. They're definitely heavily in on the gold and on the food. GUA early with the expansion now. We talked about this in previous series. I love this just being kind of proven once again by some of the top players, what we talked about when you play as France, especially against a civ like Delhi. Delhi, we've seen some interesting early rushes, but they tend to be very retracted. They rush towards the sacred sites. They don't rush towards your base. And France, almost just begging to be punished, essentially. We see this time and time again, playing very far out, very spread eco, very aggressive with their economy, right? Like, name me any other civ that regularly does this at the beginning of the game. That being said, like, not every French player does this immediately at the start. Like, GUA is kind of the one of the more outlier type people. But by the 10-minute mark, 15-minute mark, when I watch games that have France in it, the French player is almost always the one with the spread out economy. And his opponent is the one who's boxed in, right? And that's because of the advantage you get later with the School of Cavalry, with the early night spam, right? The harassment, the pressure. It usually forces your opponent to build a tight base and be on the defensive. And it's kind of interesting that GUA, expecting to be able to do that before actually doing it, is already playing the game as if he's 10 minutes in, right? Where he can get away with this type of expansion. And it's going to be fun to see if it does ever get punished, because I feel like it's not going to. Especially against a civ like Delhi, right? Delhi aren't exactly your all-in on the early rush-in. They don't necessarily go into, knights very quickly and spam you. They can't get access to them early, so that's why. And they don't really tend to go horseman heavy in the beginning of the game. They're usually just about a few spears to box in these sacred sites and protect them, right? And Almeria with a very different opening to what we've been seeing at the moment out of these Delhi players. You can see he actually went and built a mining camp, got straight onto the gold line. We don't see this. Usually what we've been seeing a lot of is the double, I think the most popular one at the moment is probably the double moss drop. Usually we see 5 villages invested initially to grab 50 gold to bring your initial numbers up, so you can afford a scholar, and then they just all go into food and wood. But not the option that we're seeing out of Almeria here. Curious to see what he's got planned. This should be a quick tech up. We're going to see him going for the Dome of Faith now. I think the argument usually comes down to like just building the mosques to get your initial scholar, right? Versus, going in and building the Dome of Faith and then thinking about like the production of units. Because usually the mosque play is about just getting your hands on extra researchers quicker, right? Because it's going to be slow, but it's free. So having an additional mosque allows you to split up and get sanctity as well as like herbal medicine or efficient production at the same time. It gives you a little bit more flex in that regard. But yes, Almeria definitely doing the different style of Delhi to what we've been seeing from super high level players that almost all are doing the double must drop. So School of Cavalry almost complete for GUA in the meantime. Vision game, they both have an idea of what each is doing. GUA hasn't recently spotted out, though. So GUA might be caught off guard. I think he probably was in the base around the time he saw the first mosque, but hasn't seen the tech up. So he might be caught off guard by the timing on this. That being said, GUA should be the first to get his tech up by at least like 20 seconds. So it's going to be one night that will be able to be produced before your opponent is in Tech 2. That being said, with the racks being dropped straight away, Almeria is not going to be that concerned. As we know, Delhi, they're going to get access to the spearmen straight away, and they're pretty comfortable to just stick on spearmen at the beginning of the game. So tech up reveal, GUA, not enough food right now. It's a bit of a whoopsie. He actually could have had enough there if he just cancelled on those villages. So start to produce the knights now. So just a small inefficiency player there. Puts him behind slightly on the Knight production by a few seconds. This can matter, by the way. I think if you want to go in the early Knight harass, there's a very much a perfectionist approach to it, right? We talk about the time trial examples. It's like that person who keeps playing back the first 20 seconds trying to get that perfect corner. That's what it is when it comes to the early Knight rushes France, because you have to be so on the ball. You can't screw up at all if you want to give yourself the best chance for succeeding. Otherwise, your opponent probably has it counted out in some way. And the difference is that even if they counter it out in the end, if you're that quick off the line, usually it's a pivot force, right? Like, Almeria would be in a situation where he wouldn't already have a racks down, and he might have to slow down his eco. But as you can see, Almeria, because he already has the racks, he's playing Delhi, already starting to produce these spearmen, is going to be able to not only guard his scholars, but be ready for any sort of harassment that comes out from the knights onto those locations. And yeah, we do see the archers as well. So once again, just smart move by GUA. You're playing against Delhi. We just said, what do? They build spears. They almost always build spears. Don't expect a hard transition until Castle Age, when they then start considering going for the man-at-arms or the elephants. So pretty comfortable to make this move. Bit of a whoopsie from the Royal Knight there. Trying to take out the spearman. Micro. Ooh, just in time. Did bank it. Now this Royal Knight, no chivalry yet, so that's quite painful, actually. Remember how valuable these early knights are, right? Because you want to be able to cycle charge in, 2 lances, smash down a villager. Not able to do so. By the way, he did switch it up and go for a horseman. This is really cool from the scouting perspective. Remember, while you don't get as much vision as a scout, you move much, much quicker. So you're able to dip in, dip out, wrap around much more effectively. And I think maybe GUA is jumping the gun a bit here. Yeah, there's nowhere near enough pressure out of one archer. He needs like 4 or 5 of them. I feel like in GUA's eyes, he's probably thinking if I wait for that 4th or 5th archer, it's going to be too obvious that it's coming. And he's, in fairness, been delayed on getting them out right because he slowed his production to get a few extra horsemen and to ensure he kept villager production trickling out. So with the shift over, I'm a bit concerned about how you're meant to kill this building. That's the thing I will say here right now. GUA has no quick solution to getting his opponent off of this sacred site. He's going to have to actually invest pretty heavily to do so. And in that time, Almeria should be able to respond. It's just a case of whether Almeria wants to respond. You could actually see a world in which Almeria just goes straight for the Castle Age, so he's able to just, actually smash his opponent out pretty easily. Keep in mind, though, that when you build man-at-arms, it's not the best solution to the knights. What it is more about for me is, in this matchup, I think Forced March can matter a lot. While you can't attack in the middle of Forced March, you can actually surround knights in that time, and that means that at the end of the Forced March, when you are ready to attack, GUA will just lose his cavalry completely. GUA not wanting to give him that time, so we are going to see the battering ram being built. And he leaves them to it. He only needs 3 or 4 archers here, because he knows there's 1 or 2 spearmen in, and that's it, right? So if you can get through this for that, it's a worthwhile trade. 100 for the outpost. Think about the 150 gold it costs for the scholar as well. Overall, it's just worthwhile. Interruption on the production. Really important, actually, to snipe out these things. These are small details, because I think if he'd been capped, that would have been a big deal. And I think that's why GUA tried to pressure him off. The sad news for him is actually Almeria is building houses ahead of time. He wasn't capped at all. So what would have been kind of like this small micro big brain play ends up being worthless anyway. And now we see Horsemen now coming out, so just trying to address directly, have a front line, a fluid front line, right? Because you're playing against France, you know they're going to be about that cavalry, that mobility. That's why Horsemen are always the golden solution, right? You can react to both sides of your base fairly easily. Meanwhile, Spearman. Oh, Villager might be sniped out here. He has to cut it, though. He has to cut and run, so he didn't even snipe out that one Villy. And this is the problem, right? Because Almeria, he's probably played so many times up against France. You know what the difference maker here is? Textiles. Something you never get as France, right? Sometimes you forget it even exists as the French player. But when you're playing against France, against Mongols, against these rush-type nations, if you're worried about your villagers, always get textiles. It pays for itself so quickly. Yes, you slow down your production by 1 villager, but if it saves 2, 3 villagers a few minutes down the line, it pays for itself. So Baron Ram, in the meantime, was able to get through this. Archer's just trying to prioritize sniping out the Scholar. Reinforcements going to arrive, so the Horsemen will be rinsed from Almeria. The GUA definitely has superiority here, and we'll be able to get the decap afterwards as well. So the Horsemen will try to run away. And it looks like we'll get 2 out, but decap will begin. And that means the gold treacle's over. All right, fun time is done for Almeria. The good news for Almeria, however, is look at this. He gathered enough gold. He has begun his tech up. So House of Learning, is going to be the name of the game because, once again, as always, it's about that hone blades. We haven't really seen a switch up in the meta in that regard yet. And I don't expect to. Honestly, I just don't see how the alternative is any better, right? It doesn't feel better to me. Like, if we actually just whip it open and think about it for a sec. Wait, no, I was about to say Guildhall. You don't get Guildhall. No, if we go to the deli, you can see here. All right, so we can just... Like, Stonewalls are nice and all, but... I like how analytical I am. Yeah, I just don't... I'm not convinced by it, right? Like, it seems kind of good. Cheaper stone buildings, or you can build, you know, stone walls with your infantry. So, like, in theory, if you're going for a sacred site cap victory, I think that's the one condition which you build that landmark, is like, oh, I'm halfway through the sacred sites, and now I'm just going to upgrade these into stone walls. Ha ha ha! You suck, Frenchmen, never getting in, even with battering rams. Have fun. But it's still like a wonky play compared to just having home blades, having man-at-arms standing there that can actually fight the incoming siege to try and decap. Just feels better to have the home blades. That being said, you are vulnerable right now. So GUA's moved into the base of the battering rams and the horsemen as well. And the stables have been interrupted. They won't be complete. Armiri is losing so much economy here. The spearmen interrupt now, so they'll actually be able to protect the villagers in time. So one of the stables will be complete. But now with the archers close enough, the spearmen will be sniped out very quickly. Bracing, trying to slow this down. He wants to stable up. He just needs to get more military production going as quickly as possible, which is why he banks into it. And I think, is he going for it? No, he can't be thinking about it. I think he wants a war elephant. He's going to side against it, though. He goes straight into the lancers instead. That's a more realistic achievement. That being said, with the battering ram going to work here, you're going to lose one of these stables very quickly. You lost a decent amount of villages, and you lost your standing military force. And even if you get the lancers out, like you are up against Royal Knights, right? The advantage being that your lancers are teched up compared to the Royal Knights right now. And that's the problem for GUA. He has to actually force a good fight here and do some serious damage. Because remember, if we allow this to just expand out 2-3 more minutes, Almira starts to get an advantage on being teched up. So Baron Ram will get rid of the stable. And he can continue on through. Enough archers are trickling in here to cause trouble for Almeria, and not enough lancers coming out still, because remember, now he's down to one of these stables producing them. He's got a second one on the back line that is starting to get them out, and that's something that GUA doesn't know about, so it could backfire for him soon. And look at the damage being done. Scholars being lost like this. It's only 75 gold, but definitely adds up. It does keep the lancers healthy, and this is enough lancers to rinse GUA's army. The ram's going to be melted through by the villagers, and that will allow the lancers to just focus on dealing with the archers now, which they'll do very quickly. We'll see the back away. GUA just trying to retreat with a 1.25 movement speed. It's not bad, but plenty of ground you need to retreat over. And GUA still has some more archers trickling in, which are just being ignored at this stage. And this is the problem, right? He went heavily into the horsemen, so he didn't have this contingent of knights to hold as a front line. Not that they would have done that well, remember. These lancers are just stronger at this stage in the game because you haven't teched up yet. And I don't think we're seeing any tech up anytime soon. Now, GUA, is he stuck here? Yikes. Yeah, he's hard stuck here. Does not have the resources to even contemplate going for Castle Age. So he has to pressure into the base of Armeria. Just not able to do so with such a pittance of troops left over. And now we'll just see Armeria move back out. I think the Scholar's on the way to resecure on to the Sacred Site. Get that gold treacle kicking in again. Meanwhile, GUA continued the expansion. He moved to the New Deal line over here. Like we said, another thing we just usually see out front and not many other civs. At least not until you're into Castle Age, right? When you've got enough, or like you've got 2 or 3 TCs, and then you say, okay, I've got enough incoming village account that I can risk these load on the efficient gathering. But on a 1 TC, not something we see often. And wow. So GUA is just stubbornly doubling down. He's not even trying for a tech up. He's building even more military infrastructure with the ability to spam out further units. And it's going to be racks this time. And what did we usually say, folks? I believe it's that when France is forced to go into racks, it is looking bad. And I don't think that's an unfair assessment of the situation, right? Like, it doesn't feel good to have to go for Spearmen as France. You're trying to play off your efficient, kind of beneficial, unique perks, right? Such as the Royal Knights, such as the Arbors, right? The crossbowmen. You don't usually want to be going back for Spearmen. You feel like you should be past the point where Spearmen's relevant. But when Armeria forces your hand with these Lancers, you know you're in an uncomfortable position. But you know you're in a reactionary position. You don't actually have this ability to force the momentum, to kind of choke your opponent out. And he's at least trying with his cavalry, as you saw him dive through the base, but still not able to really achieve much. When we look GUA, 52 eco, Armiria down at 43. And the reason I say it's not too much is because he has these Sacred Sites. So it actually makes up a big difference here, getting that extra 400 gold per minute. That's something I'm going to at least try and put down to 200. Remember, Armiria didn't actually guard this Sacred Site move. He just kind of gambled on capping it. And while he did cap it for a bit, it's going to be pulled down by this Archer contingent moving across now. Knight is still in the base. Chivalry is getting some work because he's not being chased down properly. And, oh no, he found the food line as well. Straight in. Just like 1 or 2 villagers out. Actually gets them low, but once again, Textile's the difference. Because look how many of them are injured, just still barely alive. Guys, I mean, you know, yeah, Cavalry, I'll give it to you. It's strong. You know why we can tell it's strong? It's because Armiria's building it as well. But there's definitely solutions to it on your eco front. Because every time if GUA wants to achieve this, he has to hard commit. That being said, Armiria just let him walk past him. And this time, he'll be able to clean out a lot of troops here. Or a lot of villagers, rather. As there's only one Lancer, he will definitely hang around for this. And your Berry Bush line is going to be fully sniped. Even the Scholar as well. All right, old men cannot tell tales if they're dead. The villagers will retreat away. Won't lose any more. However, might lose a Lancer. He's not actually microing to target the low health one. So in the end, France will back away. Spearman just keeping the main Lancer battalion busy from Armiria. And that means no gold gathering, no food gathering rather for Armiria. Armiria, barely anything left at the back of his base. He just drained the last berry bush here. And I think he's got 1 corpse here and that's it. So he needs this expansion, or he needs to make room for farms. So this is where you can get a bit dangerous. Oh, okay, there we go. So he went for the backfire. I was about to say, you've got a transition, right? So he's still going to go for these berry bushes over here. I wouldn't be surprised if he sets up some farmlands, just because it's easy defend, right? If you talk about these backlines where you go for the deer, you go for these berry bushes, it's far away from your base, and this mobile military influence from GUA of the cavalry could actually punish you. In fact, right now, it's the spearmen that punish him. Look how many he's got. And this is a smart move, right? Because Armiria, he hasn't started to build men-at-arms yet. He's begun now, but it feels so delayed because he went so heavily into the Lancers. So the Spearmen are a very comfortable solution right now for GUA. And they will engage. Lancers, they're going to be wiped pretty fast if he's not careful. In these choke points as well, it feels like it works towards your advantage. It just doesn't in this situation because you have nothing to back it up. So burns continue. Stable will be crumbled. Should be able to get through the second one as well. And I believe he is reinforcing still. Yeah, trickling in. Knights to join as well. Slower, though. And remember, this is all still while he's in feudal. So GUA needs some serious value here, or quality is going to beat him out, especially with the switch over to man-at-arms starting to occur. As he probably noticed by this one swordman swinging away in the middle of spears. Archer's a bit exposed, but once again, just too many spears for the Lancers to deal with. Just charging in. GUA doesn't feel like he's got time to stop and build battering rams, and I think he's right to feel that way. And now look at this. Mangonel being built in the Siege Workshop. I think he scouted this out as well. GUA would have had vision, so needs to be careful. Maybe he can burn it down quick enough. It's going to be a tight timing to try and do, though, especially these awkward choke points he's playing around. Instead, he goes straight for the eco. And look at the wraparound. The Musketeers have returned, never dying. D'Artagnan and his brothers. I don't know if they're going to get as much value this time around, though, and it might be the end of the tail for them as one of them falls. Meanwhile, wrap round the back. Armiria says, if you want to be in my base, yeah, fine, you can, but you're staying there. And the Mangonel just rolling away. The Spearmen wasted so much time trying to reach it because if they try and run away, they will be fired upon. There is no other choice here. And they will burn it down, but they are in so deep now that this army will likely just be spent. I said that GUA tries to back them away. Many just die into this TC that's been max garrisoned. Meanwhile, on the other side, small contingent of Lancers, but matched by the Spearmen again. And once again, GUA just getting oddly favorable trades here. The spear power is just too strong. And once again, more eco damage done. Remember, like we've been talking about this before, GUA 65, 39 for Armiria. And while he had the advantage of the Sacred Sites before, that's not the case anymore. And it continues to trickle up on this one TC advantage. Or say advantage. It usually wouldn't be an advantage if you're equal, right? 1 TC each. How the hell is that an advantage itself? France, that's the advantage. Every 17 seconds a villager comes out, as opposed to the 20 seconds. Both of them still choosing to stay on that one villager-producing building. And it's making the difference here by quite the margin. And it's impressive to say the least, considering GUA has not even contemplated a tech up, and we are almost 20 minutes into the game. You might think about it soon, though. Definitely amassing the gold. but continue to just amass the spears even quicker. And the good news I'd say for Armiria is that this back line, food eco, didn't get scouted out. I think it did. Didn't look like it anyway. No, so he still doesn't know about it. Had GUA walked over that way and scouted that out, Armiria would be in a world of trouble. Because while he has surplus food at the moment, he wouldn't be able to collect it from anywhere else, right? That's the thing we talked about. He's playing into a very fragile game state where there are ways into his backline eco that aren't actually protected. It's just GUA doesn't know about them or isn't utilizing them because he doesn't know about the eco. And wow, that is aggressive. So GUA, understanding his gold is good, he realizes he needs to boost his food. So what does he do? He comes to his opponent's side of the map. After also identifying his opponent is struggling on the food front because he blocked him out the berries, he identifies that he should be here taking the boar away. The boar, which by the way, you collect from quicker than any other food source on land. Mangonels get scouted out. GUA, it's only a scout though, 60 food to get that vision's worth it. And he starts to see the army is rebuilding. The man-arm switchover continues. I don't think there were too many when he looked, though. But they are definitely starting to amass quicker with 4 racks working on it. GUA. I think has he switched yet? No, he's still... So he's going continuously into the night still. It's such a hard decision to make, right? When do you tech up in this situation? Because, well, yes, you have pressured your opponent and boxed him in. He has a technological advantage. And you feel like you need quantity over quality because you're behind in that regard, right? So you have to keep investing further. So it just feels like, to me, GUA, he's trying to scorched earth the area, right? In a way that he's getting all the benefits. He's taking all this food, all these gather points close by, away from his opponent in his immediate vicinity, knowing that that would mean that if Armiria wants to keep up in the next 5-10 minutes, he's going to have to push so far outside his base that it's going to become uncomfortable and unwieldy to manage. Really interesting kind of macro play from GUA. Once again, just send one knight in. It's scouting, and it's maybe the harassment of 1 or 2 villagers dying, right? And he even gets it away, so knight will be able to heal up. Wraps around the other side, just trying to get in, but there's just too many man-at-arms here. He actually needs siege weapons of his own, but remember, he's just still sitting in the pathetic feudal age. They don't know what a catapult is yet. They do know what spears are, though. And a bit mismanagement there. Armiria will not be punished, though. Instead, gets a nice hit with the Mangonel. The problem is whenever he pulls back, he's got these grouped together, right? So these Lancers are moving at the speed of the man-at-arms. However, when they charge full, they are not. And they see him trying to steal his berries. They say that's not allowed. These berries are sacred in our Civ. We will not let you have them. Mangonel moving in. Scud launch. Oh no! He mismanaged it! He tried to go for the predicted shot, and GUA quick on the micro to sidestep and back away from the shot. The second one will at least connect, but now the Knights are moving in. They're sniping out the Mangonels. One's already fallen. And the second will be fine, though. They counter out the Knights wrapping around in the end. And in the meantime, Armiria able to repel the harvesting of the boar before they even get half of it. Now, it is important to point out that, I believe it is Delhi, right, that they cannot actually harvest from boars. But considering how quickly GUA was getting that food, it's critical to shut him out of it. In fact, I'm just going to shut my mouth and double-check that. I'm certain it was Delhi that cannot get from boars, though. Yes, cannot gather from boars. So while it wouldn't have been something that Armiria could have taken, you have to identify that GUA, he's trying to take the risky eco first, right? Remember we talked about this with Abbasid Dynasty and the way they can utilize berry bushes effectively because they gather them quicker. You want to go for the berry bushes first because they're usually further away from your TC. Then you fall back to the sheep if you're pressured because then you're under the protection of the TC. It's that similar logic for GUA. I want this boar now and then I'll come back for mine later, right? Or I think he actually did manage to pick his dry in the end, yeah. Nah, it's over here. By the way, I guess that's something we should probably highlight. This was pretty BS of a generation, considering both of the boars were on Armiria's side of the map. So GUA was always going to be forced into this aggressive stance on his eco. Really not a fan of the way these generations have been playing out. Although then again, is it fair because you're Delhi in that regard? You have all the boar, but you can't actually take the boar. There is something BS and also hilariously balanced about that. Oh. Like, you know, when you're a vegan, but you're in, you know, buy one, get one free butcher's house. And you're like, well, I mean, it's a good deal, but I can't eat it. Oh, dear. So, things calm down. GUA's economy has to be doing well, right? Yeah, food's good. Gold, not so good. He could afford the tech up again. Does he consider it, or does he keep doubling down? I feel like while this was a good play at first, now that you've been repelled past your side of the map, this is where you actually have to get a tech up. You know Amira is going to continue to build man-at-arms, and you know you have nothing to actually directly counter it. Well, the Knights aren't a bad solution. They're not a great one either. You would like to have Arbors in this situation. And uh-oh. Those Knights, they snipe out one of the man-at-arms. We'll be able to back away from the Lance quick enough. But yeah, I would just like to see him get up to Castle. I think he needs the Arbors in the mix. If he has the Arbors in these fights, it's a big difference. Not to mention the access to Springles. I think that's what's screwing him. You saw how hard it was to get those Mangonels last time. Instead, in for a penny, in for a pound, he says. GUA, continue to march in the enemy's lines. See if you can actually get around the back and get on the eco again. And he might. Springold's going to react. The Mangonels are just standing there, though. They're going to try and turn around for the shots, but it's too close. Goes to snipe the Springold. The Knights might die for this, though. He's trying to keep it moving. Mangonel's going to whiff the shot, and he goes deeper into the eco lines. And he's going to find the goal line and the farmlands. Does he stop for it? GUA goes straight for the Villies, and now he should see the goal line. This is big if he can snipe it. It's worth it. They're all injured, but whatever. They should be able to get a few. Can't hang around long enough, though. The man-at-arms slowly just charging towards him. And I think I'm quite surprised that with this many man-at-arms, there's still no forced march coming out. Like, you have the technology, sir. Use it. Okay, he's got it queued up now. You're just getting everything else first. Forced march is going to be absolutely amazing in this situation. Like, look how hard it is to stay, like, on top of them, right? Imagine that situation with forced march. You just get in front of them, and then you force them back towards your siege weapons. That's kind of the play. You can say it's risky, but I feel like in these quantities, GUA doesn't have enough knights that he's going to turn around and kill off the siege weapons. However, with this many knights, maybe, as he's going to wrap around with a different force. So straight on the Springald. Once again, just to snipe them down quick before they can do some serious damage to the Knights. And while there's 1 or 2 man-at-arms here, I wonder if he just hangs around to snipe out a few of the Villies. The problem is the main army is coming, so he needs to be quick if he's going to do it. It's another one of the villages. Now he needs to get out. And he leaves the healthy Knight. Oh no, he gets blocked! So he'll lose one, but he does get a village for his trouble. And the Springald, definitely worth it. And just forcing that awkward, uncomfortable situation for Armiro, right? The Benny Hills we talked about so often on this channel, where he just can't feel comfortable. This is what makes France so potent, right? And it's impressive how much work is being done when you're still in feudal age, right? He still has not teched up. He still refuses to tech up. Instead, he just continues to get even more farmlands and continues to just throw out what almost feels like cannon fodder compared to the Lancers, but ends up being so effective due to the chivalry in these Royal Knights. If you needed a game that gave an argument for why the hell chivalry needs to be moved to Castle Age, this is the game. This game right here. Charge in, outnumbers the Lancers. Looking to decap the Sacred Site again, and definitely has the numbers to do so. So Armiria, once again, delayed and pulled away from trying to reach the Sacred Site victory. But the most important thing for him is the gold treacle. And have we done it? Have we finally reached the point? Finally! Oh my god, it's happening! GUA at 27.5 minutes. He's finally decided it might be a good idea to get Castle Age. I will give him credit for how he has held off this long. But thank God, before the 30-minute mark, we decided Castle Age is a good idea. I can't believe it took 30 minutes. Well, not 30 minutes, but close to 30 minutes for Castle Age to occur. But we've done it, folks. Yeah! That's got to be on the late. That's genuinely, like, top 200 players, that is the latest Castle Age I've ever seen. Oh, now, Armiria has seen this. He has to make a move, right? Like, if GUA has been handling you like this in Castle Age versus Feudal Age versus Castle Age, you don't want to wait and see what he does with 5 minutes. You've got to force, you've got to push it. Because otherwise, you're just going to be running left to right in your base again against an even stronger army of Royal Knights, because now they're veterans. And it's a decent amount of Royal Knights, actually, 21. This is my concern with Armiria. He's gone hard in the man-at-arms, but he never bothered to add spears in the mix. And he could have. He could have at any stage added in spears. And it concerns me that he hasn't, considering his opponent has barely been building archers, right? At least, maybe he's concerned. He's like, oh, I think he's still building archers because he doesn't know for sure. But you have to suspect. And look at this. Your army's seen running in. GUA is around the side if he wants to hold here with the knights. And this would be the big brain play, but instead he backs up for a frontline assault. Push in. Armiri, knowing he's at a disadvantage on the eco front, needs to push it now. Not just because he's obviously behind on villagers, but you have to feel that it was a guild hall that was built. You don't want France moving ahead of you at this stage of the game. So he pushes in on the military infrastructure, tries to snipe out some of the eco. Not able to do much, though. We'll back away. Plenty of Springles here. Not many yet out of GUA, but he's starting to catch up to 4 now. Remember, his economy is stronger, which is why he's able to field 2 siege workshops, and actually they're able to keep up production in both of them. So we'll buy time. If he loses a stable or 2, who cares? If he loses his farmland here, who cares when you've got all this behind you? GUA don't. If anyone's getting anxiety about this match, it's definitely Armeria. And the name is fitting right now for France. The GUA reveals his Springolds. Big mistake made. Tries to back them up just in time. Only loses 1 of them. Could have been more. And just the dance. The dance of death, but who's the one who's going to be dying? There's Armeria. He starts to wall the sides. Smart moves from him, ensuring that he's segmenting the areas and ensuring that there's no flanking attack that can come out from GUA. I like this move. And the forward outpost as well. Vision is important here. Knights just coming out to their death. GUA, he's running out of time to make a move. More Springles being produced, though. Remember, it's home field advantage. He almost has evened up the number, right? Armeria still has 1 more Springle than him. But it's home field. More Knights as well. Springles will start firing at each other. Try and get the Mangonels out of the way. That's the big deal. If you get rid of the Mangonels, you can charge in with the Knights. And the Mangonel looking for a pristine shot right now, but what is it right? He's going to try and go for the villager. The villager's charging in. It's going to force the siege weapons back. And the Mangonel has been sniped out. The villagers will continue into the Springle line. He's got enough eco, he can sacrifice them here, and that will allow the Knights to now take on the main battle. They protect the Springles from the man-at-arms, trying to wrap around the back. GUA holding his opponent at bay. Barely any Springles left to his name. Armeria running out of options here and running out of forces quickly. GUA, it took him almost 30 minutes to reach the Castle Age, but when he did, he's going to keep strong like a king here, as it seems like Armeria has spent his entire force, and he's not rebuilding anything big back in his base. That being said, Lancers wrap back around. The Springles get back in the mix. GUA's running out of Knights quickly here. The man-at-arms with the home blades, they're just too powerful. GUA, it looks like he's done. That's his whole military force. And France's time to reign supreme is over. Long live the Delhi Sultanate as they slaughter the French kind. And although it may have taken him 30 minutes, Armeria ekes out the advantage and ekes out the win as GUA has nothing left in the chamber.